Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you. Good. I'm glad the camera lightened up a little bit because it looked like I was in some kind of dark haunted house there for a second. Anywho, yes, we are back. I am a little bit alarmed at how often I'm seeing different water events all over the world in the daily news. And again, it all adds up. What's going on in space, what's going on underneath us, and what's going on in the water, on the land. It all ties together. But I just haven't really heard anybody mention as much about the news reports I'm seeing cumulatively about what's going on in all the water. So maybe you might be interested in that. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, share. It's all good. Join the family. Hello, Debbie Lone Wolves. Hey, I'm so glad you made it. I'm so glad. As usual, links are in the description box for everybody that comes in after this. But we do have some interesting news. Let's go ahead and get to it. What do you think? All right. First article. Scientists sound alarm after salmon species finds new spawning location. An ominous sign. An ominous sign. That's what it says. Now, growing zones have been changing. Storms have been changing. And so have the spawning locations, right? For at least the salmon, but there's definitely more going on in the water. We'll get to it. All right, it says in a plot reminiscent of the fairy tale Goldilocks, chum salmon are looking for waters that are just right because of planet overheating. Their proverbial perfect porridge is in remote Arctic areas previously uncharted by the migrating fish known for their prolific breeding, according to a report from Wired. The researchers don't yet know how the salmon shifting spawning area will impact the ecosystem. What's happening? The Arctic is warming 4 times faster than the rest of the planet. Experts think that the presence of chum salmon farther north is just another sign of unprecedented warming. Yeah, because they're going to want to go where it's cooler. Yeah, the Arctic rivers are just starting to become suitable. Okay, no. And that would mean that because it's warming, that's what's making it more suitable, not the cold. My bad. My bad. Why does it matter? Biologists don't yet know how increased salmon counts in far northern rivers will impact other species relied on by local in the in the region. I don't know what's going on with my reading, but when you think about the fact if the salmon are moving, then there are chances that the species that are local to that new region might be also looking to immigrate somewhere else anyway. You never know because it's all part of a chain reactions, ripple effects, right? We had a huge storm hit the East Coast very recently in the recent days. An article comes out Florida's freak flooding sees water levels reach alarming record. Storm surge flooding reached alarming levels across Florida as an intense storm hit the state before barreling up the East Coast. Early Monday, the tide reached 8.31 feet and it says flooding migration patterns emerging as millions move due to climate change. Now, this is about the migration of people due to climate change. See what I mean? It's a huge change in areas. It's really wild. Flooding is driving millions of people to move out of their homes, limiting growth in some prospering communities and accelerating the decline of others, according to a new study that details how climate change and flooding are transforming where Americans live. In the first 2 decades of the 21st century, the threat of flooding convinced more than 7 million people to avoid risky areas or abandon places that were risky. I'll tell you what, Houston's been sinking. I would avoid that. They sell these houses in these major flood prone areas for a lot of money. And they know these are flood prone areas. Let me check the chat real quick. Hey, thank you. God bless you, Eric Hatchett. Just love you guys so much. I really appreciate that. It's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I always feel kind of like a dork, but I'm extremely grateful. Thank you. Let's say hello to everybody. Nancy G, Adrian, and Paul are here. Yes, yes. We got Eric and Daryl Calhoun, Mauricio. More good news. Thanks for coming back. Oh, I've always got really good news here. Everybody's saying hello. Good deal. Good deal. All right, let's go back to what's left. Right now, okay, the next article, bubblegum pink lakes to become more common as climate changes. That's what it says, bubblegum pink. Now this is basically in Australia, and they do have these. However, this is what it says: to the delight of Instagram aficionados around the world, Australia's bright pink lakes may be increasing in number thanks to climate change. The bubblegum pink lakes found in the south of Western Australia draw vast numbers of tourists every year. They gain their strange hues from a collection of bacteria and algae living in the water because of the effects of climate change. New lakes may start turning pink, while others will dry out entirely. These lakes, which are found dotted across Western Australia and South Australia, include Lake Hillier, Hutt Lagoon, Lake Bumbunga, and Lake McDonald. The lakes are extremely salty and get their characteristic pink colors from the salt-tolerant algae that live in them. Alrighty. So what it's saying is climate change is expected to lead to lower levels of rainfall and higher temps across Australia. Now, Australia's been suffering some pretty bad heat too the last few years. That's been getting worse and worse and worse, just like right here in Houston. And am I worried about next summer? Because it was awful this year. I mean, it's unrelenting. You really can't cool down. And then as the weeks go by, it just starts beating you down. I can't imagine another summer but worse. Anyway, but that's in Australia, and they do have a pretty big underneath the earth. They have a pretty big member that's been acting up over the last few years also, and it's been in the news. Now, something that is not in the water but above us is we knew that a couple of days ago we were supposed to have what that Geminid asteroid flybys going on. But we did see a flashy fireball light up the sky above West Virginia and Tennessee. I thought I'd at least make note of that. And for the last article, and this is super important, it's not necessarily about water, but when it comes to this, it can mean anything because it's about Texas power plants, right? Texas gets an abundance of all kinds of major emergencies weather-wise, wildfires and hurricanes and flash floods and tropical storms, tornado, you name it, we get it. And now blizzards, right? So we know that they've been saying there's a really good chance that in January, Texas is going to have another blizzard. Yay. So I know this time a lot more people have Mr. Buddy heaters. Hint, hint for those of you who don't yet. Anywho, the name of the article, Texans, y'all need to hear this. Texas power plants have no responsibility to provide electricity in emergencies, judges rule. Let me read that one more time. Texas power plants have no responsibility to provide electricity in emergencies, judges rule. That's right. You are responsible for you and your house for electricity, any kind of needs, but electricity here, You're responsible for yourself in an emergency. So preparing is always good. There have been at least 2 times this year because my power went out 20 times this year. I'm not kidding. At least. It was a lot. And a couple of those times I was actually outside with my solar batteries, my power batteries, solar charging when the electricity went out at the time they were charging, just in case of an emergency and it went out. I'm like, no kidding, right? But the article says almost 3 years since the deadly Texas blackout of 2021, a panel of judges from the First Court of Appeals in Houston has ruled that big power companies cannot be held liable for failure to provide electricity during the crisis. The reason is Texas's deregulated energy market. The decision seems likely to protect the companies from lawsuits filed against them after the blackout. It leaves the families of those who died unsure where next to seek justice. In February of 2021, a massive cold front descended on Texas, bringing days of ice and snow. The weather increased energy demand and reduced supply by freezing up power generators in the state's natural gas supply chain. It froze the water too. It froze the turbines. It froze everything. It was awful. The state has said almost 250 people died in the winter storm and blackout, but some analysts call that a serious undercount. Within days of the storm, Texans affected by the failure of the energy system began filing lawsuits. Some of those suits were brought against power generators whose plants had stopped working in the storm and had run out of fuel to generate electricity. Now, I know they've been saying that they've been weatherizing the grid ever since then. Every power outage that we had, it was some switch or some transformer, and it's just, I'm telling you, it's so hot here. I'm not surprised, to be honest, but they've been trying to upgrade it. They've been trying to, but we don't know how far that went. And when it gets that cold, I mean, everything just stops. Everything. All right. You need to be sure to be aware of your surroundings. Don't take the weather lightly anymore. Get in the habit of checking every day. What's the weather going to be like tomorrow? What's the weather going to be like the day after that? Because when that storm hit, even though it had been in the news, it hadn't been broadcast like it should have been, because nobody here had ever seen anything like that. It was probably the furthest from most people's minds, some kind of disconnect. But now that it's happened and now they're saying it again, just be prepared. But know that these companies, they're not liable. And Texas usually sets a precedent for other states all the time. Texas is the hardest state to grow up in. I'm not even kidding you. And I recently, like the last, I don't know, 12 hours, I've been starting to get these memories back. Because a lot of y'all know I have had amnesia and I'm slowly coming back from that. And I think that God is giving it to me in stages so that it's not too overwhelming again for me, but I finally remember how it is that I had become not just angry, but as strong as I was, because this state does you no favors often. Okay. It has pushed every citizen to the limit for at least the time that I was born into, the 70s, and their generation, the parents, man, they were, oh God, they were really hard. And it was no wonder, an army brat and the kind of family I came from, the expectations. It didn't matter that I was a epileptic or a girl. No. And it's almost like that again now. It's like Texas, like, we'll do what we can, but you gotta man up, woman up. This blizzard is probably coming again, may not, but there's always something on the way here. And you never know when it can be in your area too, because there are signs all over the world that things are growing as far as the anomalies, the freak weather, the unprecedented weather, the mysterious scientists baffling weather, the 500-year whatever, 1,000-year, dude, it's here. It's worldwide. It's not just Texas. But in the end, that's really how it's going to be, is that there's going to be too many emergencies, too many for anybody to really be able to be liable. It's going to be like that. So, I've even heard insurance people there, the companies are strained as it is. Imagine the birth pains getting worse. All right, everybody, I'm going to say hello to everybody just real quick that I may have missed. Hello, Clarissa. Cowboys 8 panel. All right. If you have the money, it's good to put the extra insulation in your attic. Yep. Cloudy with a chance of meatballs. You're funny, Clarissa. Oh, Nancy, you remember, have family in Texas. I'm in Louisiana. Yeah, I lived in Texas, but I had family in New Orleans, Mandeville and Metairie. So, yeah, but I came from Texas, and I just I was an Army brat, and a lot of y'all know by now that when it came to the Army, Army brats didn't necessarily stay at home. A lot of us, including myself, we were involved. Children have been involved in the military with their parents, and I was. We get out of the Army, we're never really out. It's in your dad, it's in your mom. That way of life, it's there. And it just seemed to be in the minds of everybody. Just this very strict. I don't know. It's no wonder the Beastie Boys came along. There was just something very hard about the generation. But anyway, I love you guys. I do. And hopefully we'll be talking super soon. I know it's a busy week for everybody. Please be careful out there. I love you. God bless you. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.